felt it would give us the best access to the strongest possible group of senior insurance decision makers.
InsurTech Insights is a must-do conference, I think, for the network that is built here.
All right, everyone, welcome back from lunch. I hope you've gotten yourself a little bit right now so that you feel that the next 40 minutes will just be enjoying the session. Now we're gonna go into the session about navigating turning tides, how growth stage Insurtechs can stay on course through 2024. And we have a very, very good panel on this one. And I'll introduce Ron Rock, the moderator, who can more in detail introduce the rest of the panel. So give them a warm welcome up on stage.
Testing. Yeah, thank you. Probably we'll do some introductions, but I'll kind of just have Kobi start and then maybe feed in Juliette and then Richard and Rob. For me, I think this is a great panel to start off with because it's a good mix of one person that works for an InsurTech company, a couple investors, and then Kobi, of course, I think he needs no introduction, to be able to stimulate the growth of an InsurTech community in Israel. What I did want to do is I'll start with Rob. Just give me a brief introduction about what you do and what your role is.
So good afternoon. I'm Rob. I'm a partner at Balderton Capital. Our aim is to be a world-class global VC, really focused on European founders, building any tech business. So it could be investing from 1 to 60 million into InsurTech, into FinTech, into software, whatever it may be. I'm on the board of 2 InsurTechs, Zigo, which is growth stage, and Lassie, which is at earlier stages, and have been coming to conferences like this for about a decade and keep learning in insurance.
Great. Juliette?
Yeah, good afternoon, Juliette Souliman. I'm a principal investor at Portage. Portage is one of the largest fintech, insurtech, and crypto-focused fund globally. 3.3 billion under management. We exclusively focus on this kind of what you can call, in a sexier manner, the future of money. Series A to Series C, so ticket size averaging 1 to 30 million. And I look specifically for talent in InsurTech in Europe, and we're the happy investor of Clark, among others.
Great.
Kobi.
Okay, so my name is Kobi Bendelak. I'm leading InsurTech Israel, that's leading the Israel InsurTech ecosystem. We have almost 200 InsurTech startups, and the majority of them based in Tel Aviv. There's a lot of people that saying Tel Aviv is one of the InsurTech capital of the world. And we will speak about InsurTech and the Israeli InsurTech ecosystem soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Hi, everyone. I'm Richard, Chief Distribution Officer at Clark, specifically Clark UK. I'm here pretty much to give an insight from an InsurTech's position on growth and our journey and where we've come from. Clark started in Germany. We run a insurance management app, The Expert in Your Pocket. And in the UK, we have a slightly different model, but we're aligning to that and looking forward to sharing some insights.
Great. Great to meet you all. I think we've had some conversations ahead of this, so I've kind of teed up some questions, and then we'll go to the audience later. Richard, let's start off with you. And from your perspective, you've been in an InsurTech. You've been from the ground, really. You've seen it really kind of grow over the last couple of years. What are some of the things that you've seen that's led to that growth? And we'll stop there and we'll talk about some challenges or opportunities.
Sure. Okay. So if we look at Clark as a pan-European group, we started off in Germany, and most of the growth was really driven by previous fundraising rounds and using that money to then really build out the team, invest in the people that we had, engineers, sales, all the other pieces of that puzzle to make that business. But a lot of that was then also really going in on the brand and the marketing efforts over that period. So in terms of our growth from 2015, when Clark incepted, up to maybe sort of 2021, we went from a few hundred customers right up to 600,000-700,000 customers in Germany alone. Through that period as well, we've had obviously some M&A within that growth strategy as well. Notably the Finanzen Group. So Finanzen were one of Europe's lead providers to insurance brokers. Clark, we joined the Clark Group around 2022, and that again brought a lot of growth, and using the marketing and everything else that came from that lead generation to really drive that. So for us, the growth journey's been one of investment, and then in the UK, our growth model was slightly different. So we were part of the Finanzen Group. We were probably more of a media tech firm to start with, and we actually had brand first. So Clark UK, we operate the brands Tom and Polly.co.uk, which is a life insurance product for mums and dads. And we really owned that niche and really kind of dove into that blue ocean space essentially, and really drove the marketing message from that. And we use some celebrity endorsement and some real stories to bring that message home, and we drive a lot of revenue and a lot of traffic through that. So with that, and then coming into the Clark Group, we're now able to kind of marry those two together and bring in the app and insurance management technology and help to now grow our sort of existing customer base. So.
Yeah, thanks for that. Juliette, as an investor in Clark, maybe can you expand on what attracted you to put some investment into Clark?
Yeah, I mean, regardless of the industry, I think, and InsurTech is not an exception. And I will give you a very vanilla answer, but the number one criteria is always the team. Clark has an exceptional management team, and this is definitely our number one criteria when we make investments. I would always go for a A-star team with a B product than a B team with a A-star product. Simple rule, in the long run, the A-star team will make that B product look freaking amazing, and vice versa. Pardon my French, but the B team is likely to F up this A-star product. And I can definitely say that we had very strong conviction in the capability of the Clark team, from experience, expertise, and an incredible, ambitious vision, which are key.
Great, thanks. From your perspective, Rob, if you're looking at companies to invest in and you're looking at metrics, I mean, you've got the core metrics like ARR, what's your run rate, all those types of things. On top of that, are there any kind of unusual or kind of under the covers type of metrics that we wouldn't be aware of, like customer acquisition cost, obviously, but maybe expand on like what really attracts you to a startup when you're investing?
Yes, I think what went wrong, I think, for InsurTech investing in 2020, 2021, was people starting to talk about ARR in the context of an InsurTech business. They're not really ARR businesses. They aren't ARR businesses. It's not annual recurring revenue. There's premiums, and then you have your broker revenues. Neither of those are recurring. Both are required to go out there and win that business year after year. The retention is never going to be as good as a SaaS company. And I think being very aware of that as investors is really important. Insurance businesses trade at a couple of times GWP. They do not trade at 10x ARR. So that's the start point. Loss ratio is really key. It's obviously the most important thing for a business. It can be hard because some categories just have very low loss ratios. And so recognizing it's just a good category versus it's got a particularly good insight as a business. We obviously look at unit economics and payback times. So can you pay back your acquisition cost over the period of 12 months? Is really important. Can you do so at a good loss ratio? Do you have some robust capital provision? Do you have a robust book from insurers? And then I think what we look at a lot more now than we did perhaps 3 years ago was what is the overall burn rate? So what is the path to profitability for this company? How is it going to reach enough scale to cover the central costs, cover the tech costs with their contribution margin?
Kobi,
Yes.
you said you were going to talk about this. So recently you were on a road show into the U.S. You visited a few cities, one in my state. As you were talking to these startups and said, you know, let's go take a look at the States and see what we want to do to expand and grow past where we are today. How did you evaluate those companies and say, you know, these are the companies that are right for that growth, and I think that now's the time for you to look at the States?
Yes. First, I want to say thank you, Ron, for your great hospitality in Ohio. We just arrived to Columbus. It was my first time there. Amazing city. Very, very interesting. A lot of insurance companies. So for us, it was a very great and successful trip. We've been in Chicago, and Columbus, and Des Moines. It was great time. So thank you. I don't know if you know, but Job Ohio take care about all the alcohol in Ohio. If you want to drink beer in Ohio,
your check is in the back.
I never heard about that. That it's amazing. So, okay, but for your question, just saying. So, we're operating a lot of roadshows around the world. We've been in Swiss, we've been in Germany, and now in London, and of course in the US. And we always look for the startup that's relevant to the roadshows. So there must be a startup that focusing on the US market. It's easy for us because the majority of the Israeli InsurTech startups are focusing on the US market. Then the startup must have a product and relevant product to the market and relevant product that the insurance company that we are going to be there. And of course, the startup's supposed to be a mature with funding, with team. And when we select that team, or when we recruit the team, we select the relevant startup to join us to the relevant roadshow. So that is the criteria for us to recruit the startup and bring them to the right direction.
I'm going to save the Gen AI question till later, but when you're out and about, you see a lot of companies that do sometimes very similar things. So there's a lot of competition. There's also ways for you to differentiate. I'd like to get probably everybody's thoughts on what type of things can you do to differentiate yourself over the competitors, and then, you know, what are you typically looking for? Is it partnerships? Is it investment? So we'll start with the differentiation part first. So Rob, do you want to?
Yeah, I can have a go. So I think, we look quite a lot at the insurance software market. Obviously, there's about 100 of those companies here today, and there's probably for each category, there's 10 companies which have quite similar pitches. I think great software is about sales, and then it's about sales, and then it's about marketing, and then it's about sales. And I think that's really what marks out the great companies. I think Guidewire don't necessarily have a much better product, but they have a fantastic sales machine. They have a great history, and that's why they continue to do well in what they do. And I think that's what we look for early on is, have you got a great sales team? Have you managed to close some great clients, some smart clients in competitive countries like the US, UK to some extent? So can you show that ability to get a sales marketing machine going? I think the only other route that makes sense is finding a niche that people aren't going after. So can you serve SMEs really well in a way that the incumbents can't do? I think, you can definitely... We see companies that got million ACV contracts with large insurers, but the danger of getting that too early is you get pulled into a lot of custom work, get pulled really into one client, and I think that can really close off future growth.
Richard, you mentioned the celebrity type of thing. Is that part of your differentiation?
It is to an extent. I think when we were certainly in the lead generating space and selling leads as a lead broker, that certainly helped us in that industry. And we were probably supplying about 25% of the life insurance leads into the UK broker market at that point. But one of the things that then made us stand out is when we pivoted to go into the brokerage, instead of just being the media lead sourcing company, and starting that brokerage, it was very much a case of, well, maybe it's just a Me Too situation. They sell life insurance, we sell life insurance. But the difference was we had our brands sown. We had our niche. We targeted on our mums and dads through those brands, and really drove that home. And yes, the celebrity piece helped, but it was the understanding of the social and sort of on-demand marketing really that kind of took us there. It helped that obviously when we set up the brokerage and we kind of took away 25% of the market's leads, so we could have them in-house. Obviously that helped us a little bit to get a leg up. But another one to really kind of help, certainly from Clark UK's perspective and using those brands to differentiate ourselves, was then looking at partnerships to take us as a broker to a different level. So what we actually looked at doing is that what we did is partnered with InsurTech, part of the Swiss Re group, to actually launch our own products. So we now have our own Tom life insurance and Polly life insurance products that we actually sell out there. So we no longer rely upon the insurers to actually work with as well, which allows us to differentiate again, because we get to have a lot of conversations with InsurTech and feedback and look at that underwriting piece that better serves our customers. Marrying that then with the Clark model and bringing in the insurance management app into that mix, again, really just kind of sets us apart from everybody else within our space. So yeah, we've done a couple of moves to try and put ourselves into a different position.
Juliette?
Yeah, I just add that obviously, market fit, repeatability of the sales, etc., which Rob touched on is important. But in Insurtech specifically, we love investing in companies that fix a very difficult problem. The issue is sometimes we see companies with an amazing product, an amazing team, everything on paper looks great, but the issue with insurance is you need capacity, right? You need this capacity provider. I'd love to do cyber insurance. I'd love to do crypto insurance. I shouldn't say that out loud. My compliance officer is in the US.
I can bring you some.
I'm sure you can. But point is, sometimes we see those very cool technology using really with an edge. The issue is they have 15 million capacity, which is great, right? But we're looking for businesses that get to that 100 million revenue in that 5 to 10 years time. And this is really sometimes the blocker for us. And so something that really clicks for us, if you guys have solved that piece, is a really big plus for us and something that we spend a lot of time on.
Kobi, you have plenty of companies.
Yes.
How are they differentiating themselves?
Well, that's very hard. First, if you are not first in the market, you need to do something that differentiates yourself from the others. So it can be based on price. You charge less money than others, so this is easy. It's not easy, but easy to explain. The second thing is technology. Maybe you can bring something else to the table, something fresh or another angle. That's the second thing. The third thing is if you can be faster than other. In the jungle or in the desert, not the strong survive. The faster survive. So maybe you can be faster than your competitors, so you can differentiate yourself by that. Last thing is the team. Maybe your team is stronger, better, more accurate than the other, so you can bring something else to the situation. But it's not enough. So you can be different, but if you are not good enough, if you not bring a good solution to the market or to the needs, so you can be different, but you will not succeed. So differentiation is great, but you must be good in what you are doing. And with a lot of passion and a lot of power, because it's very hard. The journey is very, very hard, so you need to fall in love in what you are doing to cross these challenges.
I'm not going to repeat the entire title because I think we have the record for the longest title of our roundtable. But in terms of being sustainable past 2024 and beyond, let's maybe talk a little bit about we had the times when you could get investors happy about every InsurTech and people were just raising capital left and right. Now they're looking at how can you get to profitability quicker. So maybe tell the audience a little bit about what maybe challenges they need to overcome to get to profitability quicker. I mean, there's obviously lots of different expenses and there are ways to get there. So just provide your thoughts there, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you said it, right? It's getting to profitability or showing the ability to get profitable, I think is a key criteria for a growth stage in InsurTech right now. How do you show that? I think first start with loss ratio. Have you got a great loss ratio? If not, what can you do about that? Is it about focus? I think often it is about focus. So doing less lines, focusing on ones where you have a real advantage. That's one piece. Second piece is claims, really getting control of claims, really getting control of claims fraud. Then hopefully you can get to a loss ratio that makes sense. Then you start to look at your combined ratio. You're probably using other people's capacity. You need to bring in their costs. You need to bring in the reinsurers' costs. So looking at a combined ratio, I think is really important for any InsurTech to do now, not just their primary loss ratio. And then, keeping those central costs under control, keeping a really tight rein on your central costs so that you can, with a combined ratio, you can get to profitability. And enable that, it's just, I think a number of companies overexpanded in 2020, 2021. They tried to do too many things too fast. Too many people got licenses that didn't need licenses. I think there's been a lot of learning along that process. And now I think the companies that have survived, I think, have really figured out those lessons and are building some really interesting businesses.
Juliette, how about you?
It's difficult to go after Rob. Next time I go first. I think punchline is that GWP is not revenue. We want efficiency in the processes. We want a path to and a narrative to profitability that is very clear in the entrepreneur mind. We at Portage tend to lack businesses that bring the capacity in-house. So get that MGA becoming the own underwriting provider. It requires huge amount of capital, but we tend to appreciate those businesses at quite early stage. That's for you to decide in terms of strategy. The type and the profile of investors that you will go after is very different. You have to deal with regulation, which is another topic entirely. But we tend to go after those businesses that can bring the core value of insurance as much as possible in-house, and to be able to tackle those efficiency improvements as much as possible and to have them in their control.
I'll probably stop there and maybe shift to a different question. We talked a lot about the competition out there. There's large players, there's small players. There's really, in my opinion, there's plenty to go around. And I alluded to some partnerships earlier. So if you're an InsurTech, sometimes you are looking for a partnership. It's hard to not look at that as I'm going to be a competitor to a large company or a large corporation, so how do I actually compete with that? So Richard, maybe some thoughts on, instead of thinking you're competing with the big boys, I guess, so how would you, let's go with the actual title, stay the course with that, just know here's my market, here's where I'm going to play, or is it time to really compete against the big corps?
I think for us we've kind of had our battles with some of the bigger ones, and in Germany we mentioned a few other companies earlier on, Rob, the Get Safes and those guys, and we've kind of had that. I think for us it's now looking at it more sustainably over the long term and trying to think about, well, where's our growth going to go? So actually, yes, by not thinking about now who else is in the race and who else is out there, and not necessarily putting ourselves as competing with those, and just looking internally and competing with ourselves a bit more to go, right, actually, this is kind of what we need to be doing. And you touched on sort of loss, and one of the key things is looking at retention rates and the existing customers that we've already invested a lot of money in acquiring, and what are we doing with those, and how we're working with those customers to maximize the loan to the sort of lifetime value of those, and support them and offer them enough value from our proposition. And I suppose that's again maybe where we would look and say, well, actually the value that we're offering as an InsurTech to our customers, how is that improving? How is that benefiting them more so now than it was last year or the year before, because ultimately, if somebody else comes through with something that has a better value proposition, then yeah, we could lose our customers, and that's probably the focus, and bringing it internal and looking at more of that sort of long-term position.
Kobi, how about you? You did your roadshow. You visited with a lot of large corporations, both probably looking for partnerships, looking for market share customers. What are your thoughts on that? Are you dealing a lot with ones that want to compete or ones that are looking for partnerships?
That's a great question, but I want to answer first, or to speak a little bit about your previous question or your last question, speaking about investment. So just saying that in Israel right now, the situation is almost come back to usual. I mean from the business perspective. So the life was almost like in London. So people on the streets, schools, factories, offices, all the same. Of course, from the feeling, from the vibe, we are very sad people right now. But what we want to emphasize is that we are strong, stable, and resilient. The Israeli InsurTech ecosystem are doing a great job, and just in the last 3 months, we had great investment rounds in some of our startups, like Empathy that raised over $40 million, Healthy raised over $50 million, a Doctor and Digital Hour that raised more than $20 million, and of course Next Insurance that raised a few months ago $250 million. So all these great startup came from our ecosystem and operate in Israel, and this is very important, and it's connected to your last question, your last question. The right question is that competitor. It's very important to the startup to realize how you want to affiliate. There is a startup that affiliate together from the same industry to the same insurance topic, and the founders are very successful. It's like M&A, but not like NMA. So being competitor or affiliate, it's something that you find along the way along the journey that you are doing together with the market. So there is no right question or exact question or answer for that. But I think affiliates and competitor is something that you are seeing during the journey that you are doing.
Okay, I'll let Juliette go before Rob this time. How about your thoughts on staying the course?
I think that InsurTech has one of the most active ecosystem when it comes to incumbents participating in the early stage life of startups. It's probably every single insurer have a CVC. They take part of round very easily. All our LPs who are financial institution, and obviously the usual suspect in North America, at least of large insurer, are actively participating in those partnerships. I do think that this ecosystem is quite collaborative. One needs the other and vice versa. And we actually very much welcome CVC in the cap table, and have seen great growth thanks to those type of partnerships. So I think collaborative is for sure the word in the partnership ecosystem here. Did I steal your turn?
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, you did. I guess the biggest friction I see in InsurTech that's kind of unique to InsurTech is capacity. And you have to have capacity for an insurer. The insurer wants to be exclusive. They want to be your only provider of capacity. That, as a startup, is super hard. Basically, your business is completely dependent on one insurer. And they can have a management change, or they decide they want 5% higher loss ratio, and they can push up your pricing to a level that's not competitive. So playing that game is super hard. We spoke earlier about how hard it is to found any tech company, but I think founding an InsurTech is super hard. I think people are trying to figure out how to do that. The reason people went out and got licenses was to try and address that issue. It doesn't address it, but it does perhaps help. I think people are looking at other structures such as co-insurance at the moment to try and find different models. But that remains, I think, the hardest part of building out a new InsurTech.
I'll have different versions of this question. So maybe for you two, Juliette and Rob, as you're looking at maybe your next investment, what's kind of, I said Gen AI, I'm sure that's probably an easy answer, but what's kind of exciting you for your portfolio, or give me an investment that's just like overperforming, something that just is really exciting to you. Juliette, should I go with you first?
Again.
Okay, all right. I'll give you time to think. Yeah, if you want to go. So obviously, I'm super excited by the companies I work with. So Lassie is taking a new approach to pet insurance and bringing a Gen AI approach to the claims piece, obviously, and to automating all the back office, but also to the prevention and how do you really become a better pet parent? How do you look after your pet better? How do you understand your pet better? And therefore avoid the kind of diet or health issues further down the line when they get old and sick. I do think Gen AI is pretty transformative for insurance. There's so much back office spend still in insurance. You're not going to change that overnight. You're not going to automate everything. But what you can do is use Gen AI to make it a lot more efficient.
Yes, I mean, same for us. We're very excited about our European portfolio. Be Clark, Horus, who are in the room, or Achille, Alan, and so on. I think when it comes to, I'd love to do some cyber insurance, if there is anybody in the room there that has managed to crack the underwriting piece. I'd love to do some crypto insurance as well. Those are two areas that I'm actually actively looking for. When it comes to generative AI, we expect every single company in our portfolio to use efficiency tool, as they should. Now, the big question is, how do you create a moat around generative AI that is intrinsically built around quality and amount of data? Unfortunately, most of the time, incumbent and larger company have that moat versus earlier stage companies. So we're quite mindful with that term. Do think that every single company is expected to use generative AI and is kind of a must more than a moat for us at that point when we look at investment.
Kobi, you can't say you love them all. What investments or what startups are exciting you the most?
What is Gen AI? What is it?
I think it's a new cereal.
There's no one in the globe that didn't heard about these two words, Gen AI. Anyway, for your question, what we are seeing in Israel is something very interesting. There is a huge demand from a lot of technology that never been in the insurance industry before to join the ecosystem. It's very interesting that we see space technology that start to look about being part of the ecosystem. Of course, climate, health, that goes without saying. A lot of IoT connected to the industrial zone, industrial topics that are relevant. So what I believe is that in the coming months, or not months, but maybe coming years, we will see a different InsurTech startups around. So it will not be just the regular ones that hold the insurance topics. We will see a lot of interesting things that can and approach the market, and on that, Gen AI is a very hot topic, even in Israel, or not even in Israel as well. So stay tuned for the new technologies that coming to the ecosystem, and I'm sure that in the coming the next conference and after that, you will see a lot of great things that we never saw in our industry before.
That's great. Sorry, Richard. We're like 4 minutes. I thought, how are we going to fill this? So anyway, I got a couple questions from the audience about capacity. So we'll maybe fire those at the investors. So in terms of capacity, is it more advantageous to go through a captive or an MGA, and kind of leverage those multi-carrier relationships?
Yes, I think as an InsurTech startup, you almost always have to start as an MGA. That's the way you can get going and show some product market fit in a relatively capital efficient way. Yeah, I think that's where you had to start. The question is, how you then sort of diversify. Either you get multiple providers, maybe you can work out co-insurance over time, or maybe you have to get your own license to make sure you're not too beholden to one insurer.
Yeah, two of our most successful investment in InsurTech were full stack from the get-go. Again, different type of profile. I do think that indeed, when you're an MGA, you're essentially capped in terms of revenue and in terms of growth to your provision. So you need to fix that ASAP to be able to showcase that hockey stick trajectory for an investor to be able to underwrite the risk of you being able to do 3x, 5x growth in the next, 2 to 3, 4, 5 years. So, key strategic action for the startup for sure.
Just got one in. Well, I like this one. What are your top tips for Insurtechs who need to switch from a growth business model to a profit-driven business model? Richard, we'll give you.
Hey, look, profitability is certainly one of the things on our list as well. I mean, we've got quite a few different business functions around Europe. So obviously we've got our main Clark operations through Germany. We've got our UK operation, which is a slightly different model. We came from that sort of lead first to now broker. So we have a slightly different profitability journey. But certainly as a group, we're looking at it. And again, it's for us, looking internally, looking at our customer base, trying to understand how we can get more opportunities from that. And we talked about AI, and we talked about potentially, machine learning to better understand our customers and outline those opportunities that we can then start to go after. Does it include, expanding product verticals and those kind of things as well? So for us, that's kind of, going from growth. We've had that initial period of kind of greenfield, new brand, taking that out, and I suppose we were fortunate that all started in 2015, where perhaps there was a bit more money around to put into those kind of activities than there is now. And certainly for us, we're at that sort of point now where we've got to that stage. We've got a customer base across Europe of well over 1 million people, and it's looking at how we can now utilize that and focus on profitability. Yeah.
Juliette, top tips?
It's a simple one, yet probably the most difficult one, but we keep on repeating in board meeting, focus on what works, and that is often the core strategy. The growth at all costs is often what drives that hockey stick that I've touched on just a couple of minutes ago, but at some point the business needs to make sense, and I think focusing on the core business is the number one rule. It might sound very easy, but you would be surprised the amount of stuff that a lot of our portfolio company venture into that actually is not what makes the most sense. So focus.
Kobi, and then I'll let Rob have the last word.
Okay, so because we based far from our markets, we based in Israel, so the first thing that we recommend a startup to grow is to relocate to the target market in, let's say, US, and open an office immediately. It's very important, even for the investors and for the clients. You must build a relationship with your ecosystem. You must build a relationship, insurance based on trust, and you cannot you cannot build trust when you're based in Israel. So you should do or must do a relocation to your target market. This is the most
Finally,
important.
Rob.
Completely agree with all those comments. I think being really focused on your target market and being based there are super important. But I think you have to do a tough approach to costs as well. You need to take a zero-based approach to all of your costs and go through one by one. And cloud spending is out of control for a lot of companies. And so, for example, really looking at everything you spend on Amazon and drilling through all those pieces it's a really important discipline, I think, to get towards that profitability, the holy grail.
Well, we're over time. Thank you all for this. I really appreciate your time today, and hopefully the audience appreciated it too. If anybody has any questions after this, approach any of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.